was watching a movie once, and it wasn't real what was happening, but something about Erwin Rommel, the desert fox, how every time when he was fighting the British in Egypt, the British want to explain why they was getting beat so much by the Germans. So they said something about, well, they had German archaeologists which they did, in Egypt in 1936, 37, and 38. And those archaeologists were burying supplies all over Egypt. Supplies, gasoline, and all of that. So Erwin Rommel would be fighting the British, and then he'd run off and go over here, and they would run out of gas. Well, he was going the way he already got gas. That's in the movie. It wasn't true. He was just better than they were, that's all. He was just good at it. That's why I always bury, when we doing good, remember I said, I had my partner say, you're going down, pick up 2 packages, here's extra money, and bury one of them. When we were surrounded by the system, and hot as a firecracker, wouldn't nobody touch us. Because we hot. They love you, but you can't, I do wrong, I can't go sitting up with you because you hot, you're going to get me. So it's a rule, you just know better than, that. So I went down to Granny's house in L.A. I went to the penitentiary and I asked my partner, he was in Terminal Island, I said, where did you bury that package? He said, at Granny's house. Granny, I went on over to his grandmother and dug up the dope. And my other partner, he said, man, everybody sure like that dope, but it's got a little dirt in it. I said, yeah, well, the shovel hit, I'm not going to take all that, the dirt out of the dope causes a different color. You got pure white looking dope, and then you're going to try to sift all the dirt out, you'll be went broke or crazy trying to do that. So I leave the dirt in. Dirt ain't going to hurt nobody. They can sniff it, they can shoot it, whatever they want to do. It's just dirt. Right? It's regular old dirt. So that taught me a principle that whatever you're doing, eventually you're going to hit a slick spot. You better protect yourself. So when I was coming back into the country with 40-something thousand, maybe 46, it's close to $50,000 in the 70s, I went to Colombia and dug it up. Why? Because when you rolling big, I'd go out every morning, running up in the hills down there. And I'd bury something here, bury something there. And some of the stuff they picked up and they found, but they didn't find it all. So when I came back in the country, I had $40-something thousand, $50,000 on me. They say you had a drug deal go bad. Ain't no drug deal go bad. I just went down there. I was on parole and everything. That's why, I just went down there and picked up some money. The other time, I went to Africa, and I had lost my safe deposit box key and everything, so everybody had that problem in Africa. So they said, well, we can go in and get it for you, but you're going to have to pay for the box because they're not going to be able to use it again. Well, we went downstairs, all the safe deposits was hanging open. From everybody forgot their key or lost their key, and they had to drill in there. You know what I mean? So anyway, even right now, you got to think about it. There is nobody like us basically in the world, because when you talk about leadership, when you talk about contact with the system, I believe that, well, I'll just say the United States, I don't believe there's anybody else in the United States that is facing the system like we are, that are facing the challenge like we are. And if it's true that challenges is what build character in organization, movements, and individuals, right? If you face those challenges, you got to get stronger in order to survive. And if you survive, you become stronger. And if you resist the other aspects of the challenge, that means it develops ethics. So your ethics, unless you fall for it, you don't get weaker ethics, you get stronger ethics. Like bump y'all, man. Bump y'all. This is what we do. We don't care about you. You're not gonna use friends, family, or nobody to affect our character, right? And to affect our ethics. And the little stuff that they do around here, sometimes it proves, right? Yeah. That your ethics is holding fast. And sometimes it even proves, you can see, okay, if some little dumb thing happened, it shows you that, well, they reject our proposal. You know, it's not waving the white flag, it's saying, we have a proposal for this. And the things they do show you that they reject it. We reject your proposal. Yeah, we just reject your proposal. Because the way you putting it, that would be surrendering to the Negro, right? We're not surrendering to Negroes. And they show you by doing little stuff around here, it gives you a clear feeling. No. And there are defining moments in movement. Well, now we use the word movement. In those days, we used the word organization. Organization. Because that's what level we thought on, organization. As long as one of us survive out of the three top in the echelon, the organization survives. They can get themselves together. They can reproduce another organization, right? Okay, that's the way I thought. Maybe my friends didn't think that way. Because when I left, they said, well, goodbye. Good to see you. Nice to know you. They never sent me no money. They never, of course I never asked because I didn't expect nothing. They were still looking at me like, hey, if anything happens, he's going to have to do it. Right? So they went back doing like what they want. And the other thing is, from the history that they had seen, everybody that went through what I had, they never made no comeback. From a federal case, from all the stuff they had on me, right? From the, what they looked at on the surface is the destruction of your whole infrastructure. The whole empire is wiped out. That's the way they look at it. Because if you looked at Oakland, 68, 69, 70, 71, it was what they would call an empire. It's a whole superstructure. Okay, when you leave, when you make a study, you reflect on all of that. What have I learned from all of this? Well, number one is that boss man wants to be boss man under all conditions. And he'll do whatever he can have the judges, he can have the courts, he can have the police, he can have all of that, and he still cheats. You know, because they set me up illegally in the case. Oh, right. I said, man, look, I said, boss man, because see, I was over like handling the dealer. I handle nothing. Other people handle everything, right? So boss man had to set me up. And looking like I looked, you could easily set me up, you know. And he did a good job. So I said, well, boss man's a pretty bad fellow. So I said, well, if you want it, you can keep it. That's when I left. I said, you want this boy, you keep it. Hey, yeah, it's yours. I'm gone. Okay, but the thing about it is, people was looking at the events based on what they were accustomed to. They were accustomed that, number one, if a nigga run off, he gonna run 3 blocks. If he was from DC, where he gonna run? Carolina. And they had, when I first got here, all the Negroes, and they was picking up 50 Negroes a week in Carolina that had DC warrants. I said, where's everybody from DC from? From Carolina. I said, good God Almighty. That would be just like me running away from California and going to Arkansas. Where's the nigga from? How many niggas down there dress real good and come from California and talk out the side of their mouth? There's not but one in the whole state, niggas up there. In the whole state. And he looked like old man Reeves now, that family, you know, that's what they look like. So they called Pink Booger the local sheriff. Believe it or not, that was the local sheriff's name, Pink Booger. You could tell we were out in the woods. This was, wow. This was, what's that Gregory played in that movie, Kill a Mockingbird, right? Mm-hmm. We were like that, but further out, worse. Way, wow. The sheriff's name was Pink Booger. Allah. That's the sheriff's name. You can call any of my family right now. Yeah, he was Pink Booger. Pink Booger, good God Almighty. It's like a novel. Everything that happened with us is really a novel. I mean, like 10 novels. But anyway, they didn't expect nobody. I'm running off. I was telling people, man, I'm gonna get out of here. Some people I was talking to the police, so they wasn't worried he's gonna go right down there. He'd be tired in about 2 weeks and he'd come back. Or he'll go down to LA, you know, or something like that. So anyway, Algeria. Man, went where I went, then I jumped on a thing and went to Paris, and from Paris I went to Algeria. You know, for colored people, that's running off a long way when most black people didn't have passports anyway. So the point I'm making was, and this thing on leadership and management, it's the experiences that you have. Experience is the best teacher, but reflection on your experience. Observation of what you've been dealing with, right? Mm-hmm. Thinking about it is the best teacher. And that's what one of the guys was saying. He said, no, it's not just experience. He said if experience was such a good teacher, everybody would get better as they get older, but they're not. So it's how people reflect and think about those experiences. That, to me, was one of the biggest and greatest gifts historically, is the desire and the regularity of reflection, thinking about it. And it came automatically. But there's things about leadership, I'm just going to mention a few things. Number one, leadership for me was natural, because everywhere I was generally, I would wind up the leader. You know, when you're coming up in little kiddie penitentiaries. But by the time I'm 18 and I go to the penitentiary, medium security, you know, gun towers and all of that, we have a ride, a race ride, what they used to call it, a race ride in the field house. Field house, you know, just like when they have fog lines in California, you know, when the fog come in, you can't go out on the yard. So in this big prison was a semi-modern prison. They have a field house. It's like a big, they had the gym in there, they had the weight pile in there, they had the basketball courts. It's just a big field house. It's outside. I mean, it's inside. And they got all the gates, and you can't break out of there because it's a field house. So they also had the boxing ring right there, and then they had some bleachers back there, and we would watch the movies. And all of a sudden, it was there on a Saturday, the movie come on, and something happened, and they got one of my cool friends, Ducky. He was in San Francisco, wind up shop, the penitentiary shop, had you get your head blocked, pop like that. You know, them niggas would be cool even in the penitentiary, and sharp too. Anyway, he was up there with Charlie Choo Choo Johnson. Charlie Choo Choo Johnson was a heavyweight champion. We used to call him Sacramento Black. He was one of them low Negroes with big, thick legs, big booty sticking out, and you look at him, and now he's a football player. You know, I mean, he was quick and could move. You know, one of them guys.
Right, yeah, yeah.
He was a heavyweight champion. But his friend was getting assaulted up on the bleachers, and he wasn't doing nothing. I jumped up on the bleachers, I jumped on the back boxing ring in front of everybody. Nobody can forget it. And I said, charge. And some kind of way, they went and rescued Ducky. So then, during the riot, this is the first time I ever seen this happen. The police gave Sacramento Black a gas gun. You know, a gas gun is like a billy club, and there's a shotgun shell in there, and it shoots a tear gas thing. Okay. Yeah, so you got a billy club. You can beat the guy over the head, or you can, and the gas, it'll shoot a pellet, and it's tear gas. So, but there was a new police. This guy was panicked. So he gave Sacramento Black the gas gun, like maybe to protect him. Because remember, the gates can close, and all the police is in there with you.
Right.
You know, the hall gates and all that. When the riots start, clang-a-ling-a-ling, all the gates close.
Right. Yeah.
And they close where you at. So the police, the officers is there in there with us, and let's say 200 of us right there and one police. Boy, good God almighty, you talk about scared. And then you go and see somebody scared, you see a police locked in a thing and if anything happened to him, don't nobody know what happened because there's too many of us in there. I didn't do it, I don't know. And at the same time, Big Tom Edmonds, he was from, I don't mean taking all this detail, he was from San Diego. Big Tom, he was one of my workout partners. You know, like, he was a muscular, he was big. So, well, not big like tall, but Big Tom was big. And so, Big Tom took one of them 45-pound dumbbells, and I was standing right there. I saw it come right over, boop, and it hit the lieutenant upside the head, and the lieutenant, da-da-da-da. So Tom got a case. And then Tom had me go to Stockton as a witness for the defense. And so I told him, well, yeah, I saw the weight come, and it come from, the police said it came from over the right side, and I said, no, I saw that. It couldn't have been Tom because it came over from the left side. Whatever they were saying, I just said something different. And he didn't get convicted. But at the same time, they put me and even my son told me, he said, man, Brother Farouk got y'all paperwork from that ride y'all was in '64. And he's had your name, C. Reams. I said, yeah, we was in that. And you know, we was in that together. So here's the point. The point is that I lost my date. I was going home in '64. And they took my date, gave me another year, and I stayed to '65. Wonderful. Why? If I would have went home, I had just stood up and took, you know, not Shahada, but you know, the black man and God, right? That stuff. And I stayed another year. Within the time, if I would have went home in early '64, I would have went back out like I came in '62, whatever it was. We drank wine, you know what I mean? No discipline. When I stayed another year, those teachings had sunk in. Discipline, vegetarian, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that year turned out to be a blessing, a big blessing, like everything else boss man have done all the time. There's always been a blessing. If he wouldn't have cheated and I'd had to run off, I would have never known about Africa. Well, I'd have read some book, but I'd have never lived there. I would have never had the smell of Africa. I would have never had that same thing that you watch Superfly, TNT. That was kind of the experience, you know, the bright colors, the feeling that you would get going back to Africa at that time. The people that came, see, in Africa, all the black intellectuals came back to Africa. The poets, like Gwendolyn Brooks. You ever heard of Gwendolyn Brooks? We had dinner one night at the Indian restaurant, of all things. And I was a young guy. So after we was eating, I went up and I gave her a nice kiss. Because I was a young guy, she reminded me of my mother and all that little stuff, you know. And everybody just looked at his approval, you know. This whole table full of Negroes. Doctors, poetess, you know, all the people who do poetry. They were the intellectuals. I wasn't like them. Everybody knew I was. But since we was all African American, I remember one time